And a day after Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi received a massive welcome at the diaspora event in Sydney, it's down to brass tacks between Prime Ministers Modi and Albanese in Sydney. After the official guard of honour, Prime Minister Modi held a bilateral meeting with his Australian counterpart. Both the sides built on the annual Leaders Summit held in New Delhi and discussions at the G7 Summit and Quad Leaders meeting in Hiroshima. The leaders discussed trade and investment, people-to-people links, renewable energy and defence and security cooperation.
ऑस्ट्रेलिया में मंदिरों पर होने वाले हमलों और अलगाववादी तत्वों की गतिविधियों के संबंध में हमने पहले भी बात की थी और आज भी हमने बात की है। भारत और ऑस्ट्रेलिया के सौहार्दपूर्ण रिश्तों कोई भी तत्व अपने विचारों या अपने एक्शन से आघात पहुंचाए, ये हमें स्वीकार्य नहीं है।
I'm also pleased to announce the establishment of a new Australian Consulate General in Bengaluru, which will help connect Australian businesses to India's booming digital and innovation ecosystem. And I welcome India's plans for a Consulate General in Brisbane.
After attending a business roundtable, the Indian Prime Minister will join Anthony Albanese for dinner. On Tuesday, Narendra Modi was cheered by at least 20,000 fans as he addressed the Indian diaspora in a grand event, attended by the Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese. The Olympic Park Arena event attracted Modi supporters from across the nation. A chartered Qantas flight rebranded as Modi Airways brought fans from Melbourne, and Modi Express buses were chartered from Queensland as well. At the event, Albanese said, and I'm quoting here, "The last time I saw someone on the stage here was Bruce Springsteen, and he did not get the welcome that Prime Minister Modi has got." Dubbing India as a force for global good and a bright spot in the world economy, Prime Minister Modi added New Delhi and Canberra are working on a comprehensive trade pact.
I get to speak to some pretty big crowds as Prime Minister, but I have to say that the warmth and the energy here tonight is absolutely second to none. I said to my friend the Prime Minister before, the last time I saw someone on the stage here was Bruce Springsteen, and he didn't get the welcome that Prime Minister Modi has got. Prime Minister Modi is the boss.
भारत ऑस्ट्रेलिया के संबंध 3D पर आधारित है। डेमोक्रेसी, डायस्पोरा और दोस्ती।
Both India and Australia are strong, vibrant, secular and multicultural democracies. They both have a free press and an independent judicial system. And the English language is an important link. The Australia-India relationship was upgraded to a comprehensive strategic partnership on the 4th of June 2020. In 2021, India was Australia's 6th largest two-way goods and services trading partner and 4th largest goods and services export market. The Australian government data further states that the two-way goods and services trade with India was over $34 billion in 2021. For more on this, we're now being joined by Principal Diplomatic Correspondent Siddhant Sibal. He's joining us live from Sydney. Hi Siddhant, a very good morning to you. Now, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his Australian counterpart Albanese just held a presser. They also held bilateral talks. Talk to us about some of the major big takeaways and the key highlights from Modi's Australia visit.
Well, one of the key aspects of the Prime Minister's visit to Australia was the Diaspora Connect. But essentially, as both the Prime Ministers held talks earlier today, they signed one key pact, that's the Mobility Pact. Now, that is going to help the diaspora and many Indians who are keen to be in Australia that will open up way for they being in India a legal way, and this is one of the key outcomes. But also when it comes to signing the terms of reference, when it comes to green hydrogen, it is something that is part of a larger goal when it comes to saving the climate, fighting against climate change. But essentially one another worry, in fact this relationship has seen a lot of positive things, but there is one concern, that is the attacks on Hindu temples by Khalistani extremists, and we know that that was publicly raised by the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, saying that he has got assurance from the Australian Prime Minister over this specific issue. So last time this matter was raised when the Australian Prime Minister had travelled to New Delhi just earlier this year, and there as well the Indian Prime Minister had raised the matter. But all in all, this two-day visit here in Australia will help cement the relationship further, and both countries will be able to find convergences which they already have, but essentially being part of the Quad grouping, and how both countries are saying that the Indo-Pacific should be free and open, shows that there are more convergences than divergences.
Right, Siddhant. Also, in just a short while from now, the Indian Prime Minister will take part in the Business Roundtable meeting. What can be expected there?
Well, when it comes to business, trade and economy, that was one of the key focus area of the Indian Prime Minister's visit. Yesterday, he met Australian CEOs, and today, of course, he will be taking part in the Business Roundtable. Now, we know that when it comes to trade and business, both countries signed ACTA Pact last year, and now the focus is on a larger free trade agreement. Negotiations are already on, and essentially both countries are eager to find and sign FTA. That will be a signal that more Australian businesses can go to India and invest, even as India moves up the ladder when it comes to ease of doing business, and when it comes to Indian businesses to come to Australia and find more opportunities. The businesses have significantly increased presence both ways, and trade has also increased, especially good for Australia, which sees China weaponizing trade against it.
Right, Siddhant, my last question to you. We saw the Modi mania yesterday during the Indian diaspora event. Talk to us about how the latest visit by the Indian Prime Minister has further bolstered ties between New Delhi and Canberra.
Well, it has given a fillip to ties. There has been increased convergences, but essentially what happened yesterday was the headline headlines today in the newspaper. One newspaper said, "Namaste Australia, Prime Minister Modi gets a rockstar welcome," and that it essentially sums up the feeling here. The rockstar-like welcome by Australia for the Indian Prime Minister. The Australian Prime Minister saying that Indian Prime Minister is a boss, is a message that works both ways. And of course, the comments by the Australian Prime Minister will be seen as cornerstone of this relationship in future and of course present as well. Largely, both India and Australia, key countries of the Indo-Pacific, are keen that there are convergences for the larger stability of the region, and that is why the Prime Minister's visit here in Australia matters.
Absolutely, Siddhant. Looks like the Indian Prime Minister did take Sydney by a storm. But thank you so much for joining us in WION and sharing your insights with us. We'll of course be tracking this story very closely here.